When his girlfriend dies in a motorcycle crash, a troubled teen injects her corpse with zombie serum to bring her back to life, but her hunger for brains only gets stronger. This one is from B-movie regular Brian Yuzna, and it shakes up the formula, so let's take a look at Return of the Living Dead, Part 3. Welcome everyone to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tim.
Hello, hello, hello. I said that 3 times because today is a celebration of thirds.
If you say so, Tim. If you say so. We are a horror movie podcast, and we're here today to do Return of the Living Dead Part 3. Which is a little bit different from 1 and 2. We'll get into what those differences are. We will start spoiler free, of course, as we always do. What is it, Tim?
Oh no, I was just gonna say, you're talking about differences, and obviously the biggest thing to note here is that, they go with just the simple numerical 3 instead of the Roman numeral, 3, which was established in the second one, but.
Well, actually, no. On screen they do. On screen it is the Roman numeral.
Well, look at the IMDb for it.
I know. I can see it, but the title screen in the movie has 3 slashes, which would be equivalent to Roman numerals.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. What matters is what's on the box.
So what's in the movie itself? Does it count?
No, because, we literally watch movies where the title is different when it shows up on screen.
Well, yes, but that's because some weird Italian movies have 5 different titles, and which version you end up with is kind of just at random, effectively.
Yeah, what matters is when people have the movies and they put them on their nice little shelf, and you look at one, and then the next one, and you're like, wait, what's this? Something's different. That's what's important.
Okay, I'm actually looking at IMDb. The title has got the Roman numerals on IMDb. What are you talking about?
When I was looking at earlier, it had the 3. All right, now I'm going to look it up.
I mean, the poster has the 3 on it, but the title on IMDb has the Roman numerals.
All right, well, the poster has it, and my box has it, so that's what I'm going with. Yeah, it's right there on the poster. That's what matters.
None of this matters. This doesn't matter at all. Why? Clearly, it's inconsistent, and sometimes they have one, sometimes they have the other. And why does this matter?
Because it should all be the same. Again, it all goes back to the shelf. When you have it on the shelf, it needs to be nice and consistent. And Lord knows that. We have to put up with this garbage with our comic books when we get these nice trades. And, I love DC, but they're terrible at this, where there's always changing the logos on the spines and the trade dresses. And I just don't understand why it's so hard to just look at what you put out before and say hey, let's make it match so that, people aren't constantly looking at these and wanting to rip their eyeballs out because it's not the way it should be.
We'll start spoiler free. We'll give you warning before we go into the spoilers. If you're enjoying the show, please do hit the like button on YouTube. It helps out a bunch if you do. Of course, if you want to support us, you can do that over at Patreon or YouTube membership and get some bonus stuff. I'll tell you more about that at the end of the episode. Anything else you'd like to interject, Tim?
I'll probably think of something.
Couldn't have waited 30 seconds just for me to finish the intro ramble.
Well, I've been hearing some chatter that people have been saying that the intros need a little spicing up.
The chatter. Where's this chatter? What's this forum?
I don't want to give up my sources, but some people have been coming to me in private and asking for maybe a few more interjections, maybe a little bit of tangenting, maybe just bringing up the occasional gripe, and if someone asks me to do something, I'll do it.
Do you know what the biggest or most common complaint is on YouTube?
Yes.
Right? For our well, not our show specifically, but any type of podcast show, is people hate when you talk about something that the show's not about. And in the first minute of this episode, you started talking about DC trade paperbacks. And frankly, Tim, 90% of our audience listening to this show doesn't know what a trade paperback is. So,
ugh, heathens.
So, like, I like a good tangent, okay? I do. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I like a good tangent as long as it's in good fun. But maybe the first 60 seconds isn't the time for it, is all I'm suggesting.
I mean, that's absolutely bonkers to me because, like, I don't know, for me, the whole point of, like, podcasts and YouTube shows or whatever is that, you know, you watch them and you get to know the people's personalities, and then you like when they, you know, riff or complain about something or whatever because, you know, you feel a certain kinship or, you know, you're friends with them or whatever. So yeah, Lord help me if people just want us to very dryly talk about just the movie and nothing else. I'm sorry, but that ain't the show, Buster. You know, you can take that to church with a quarter in your pocket. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah.
What does that mean? Take that to church with a quarter in your pocket? What does that mean?
Listen, people have been coming to me and they've been saying they want more folksy wisdom on the show. All right,
that's a separate issue. Why you're saying a phrase like that is a separate issue, which isn't necessarily not warranting of some questioning. But what does the phrase itself mean?
It's just folksy wisdom. I don't know what to tell you.
You can't just say it's folksy wisdom. It has to, for it to be wisdom, it has to actually have a meaning. It has to say something.
It's satirical. You wouldn't get it.
Folksy wisdom, I'm pretty sure, doesn't come in satirical flavors. That's partly what makes it folksy wisdom. It's kind of old-fashioned. Anyway, we're here today to talk about
old-fashioned, a movie from 1993.
Yes, we're here to talk about Return of the Living Dead 3, which I feel like most notably, if you're a fan of Melinda Clarke, you might like this movie because she gets naked quite a bit.
Oh. What else is she from?
She's in a bunch of TV shows from like later on. Like she's in a bunch of, she was in like All in Nikita. She was in a bunch of, I want to say the OC.
La Femme Nikita?
No, there was a TV show based in the movie, Tim, called Nikita that was on the CW for like 5 years.
Okay. So it's based off the movie La Femme Nikita?
Yes, it's loosely based on the movie, yes.
Okay. I mean, I've never seen the movie or the show, so I don't know, but
you're like an old man who gets confused and like needs to be told, like he's like, you tell me right now, what how does this relate to the one thing I know of this? Like, tell me right now. But it's not even like a new thing. This show's like 10, 15 years old at this point.
I know that. I'm not aware of it, so I'll have to go watch it now.
Sure. Maggie Q was in it. She was the titular Nikita. But I don't know if that was actually her name. Or if Nikita was just the word for assassin on the show. I don't remember. I only watched like half a season. Anyway.
I don't even know what a Nikita is, so.
Well, I think it's just a woman's name, I think. But I could be wrong. It sounds like a sexy name.
Right, yeah. Yeah, this was an era where, like, it always seemed like one of those, like, sexy shows that I was like, yeah, it's probably a little too sexy for me, like, when I was growing up, like that, or, like, what was the other one, like, Silk Stockings, I feel like people talked about. I was like, yeah, I'm not watching this.
Okay. I don't even know how to parse what the last 3 minutes of conversation were. So, anyway, Melinda Clarke's in this, and it is a bit different story-wise to the first two movies, but it does follow the continuity in the terms that it is the military doing experiments with this toxin. That stuff is still there and still very much a part of the whole thing. And the movies, I mean, it's not a spoiler to say, because I think the poster spoils it, and the movie's kind of about this quite early on, is that she dies, and her boyfriend can't live with that, and make sure she gets some of this zombie toxin to bring her back. not fully understanding the implications of doing so, and then that's what the rest of the movie's about, is her slowly turning, which is, to be fair, it's been one of the recurring things in all three of these movies, is that there's been characters who have been slowly turning into a zombie, throughout the course of the film. That's been something in all three of them.
Would you do that for me if I died?
No.
Okay.
Would you even want it, Tim?
I feel like I could do a lot of good as a zombie.
I don't think you can do any good as a zombie. You're a zombie. All you gotta do is try to eat people. That's it. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, but I'm gonna eat the right people, if you know what I mean.
All right. Tim's got a zombie hit list in the making, ready to go. So yeah, we'll get into it. We'll see how it goes. So let's somehow get this on track. Tim, what did you think of Return of the Living Dead Part 3?
It's kind of funny because I feel like I've seen this more than I actually have. Because as I'm watching, I'm kind of like, I've probably only seen this maybe twice, maybe 3 times. But I feel like the box for this movie was just so prevalent growing up, because I feel like it was always prominently displayed in like every, like horror section of any like video store that I would go. Like I just have, that cover image just like seared into my brain. And I wouldn't be surprised if, like, I don't know, there are people with like piercing fetishes or something that were like activated by this movie, or just that like box art alone. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't think it's like great. It is. I guess I would give them some credit for doing something different. Like, it's kind of a cool idea to have this kind of one central zombie, and then trying to find ways for her to, not zombify so much. So at the core, it's like a pretty decent idea, but I don't know. I really wasn't in love with these 2 main characters, honestly. I think the movie is more entertaining when they're like around other people, like, gang members or weird sewer people or like military stuff. Like, I don't know. I think that stuff's always more interesting. But whenever they were like alone and just, I don't know, just acting out like this tragic romance, I wasn't like super buying it. And it's definitely like a step down in quality in terms of like how it looks and the effects and stuff. Like, there's still some pretty like cool or interesting stuff here and there, but there's also times where the zombies just look like people in like a Halloween mask, like it's very like stiff and they're not really moving, like versus, the first 2 movies where we talked a lot about like, oh, how great the special effects were, and we're like, oh man, like that one zombie like looks so cool how they do that effect. And then here, I don't want to totally diss it, because they do try some interesting things and there's some decent looking stuff here and there, but there's some stuff that just like ain't cutting it. So I'm not super into it, but at the same time I think it's like watchable. Like, I don't hate it. It's just a step down for me, especially in terms of the other 2 movies, which I actually find like pretty fun and ones that I like to go back to. This one's just kind of like, oh yeah, I see what they're kind of doing there, but it doesn't really quite reach heights for me, I guess.
Yeah, I think that I think there's good and bad with this one. I kind of agree that the central 2 characters and their romance is pretty undercooked. It just kind of is. You're meant to accept it without it really earning you caring about them, and as a result, it makes some of that tough to buy into. And also, when you take a step back and look at the movie as a whole, everything that happens in this movie happens because of those 2 characters, and every single person who dies in this movie is because of them and their reckless selfishness and whatnot. That said, though, I do think that I appreciate that this felt very different in terms of plot to the other 2. Nothing just felt like it was rehashing the previous ones, and I do think that conceptually there's a couple of things that it does, a couple of visuals that it has, that felt like it was trying to do something kind of unique. And while I agree there are some zombies that felt like they cheaped out, it's kind of like a pick and mix kind of thing where there's a few key zombies that they clearly wanted to like, spend some money on, and they put most of their money into those few zombies because they've got a particular gimmick or a particular look they want to do for one big scene. But then there's like the background ones, and not that there's a lot of zombies in this, right? There's very few parts of this movie where there's like a horde of zombies, which I kind of appreciated because again it's very different from 1 and 2, where that just kind of became the thing, was that there's a horde of zombies like coming after us. So I think overall I would say it's pretty decent. I actually don't think it's that much of a step down in quality to the first two, but part of that is because I don't think the quality of the first two are that high to begin with. I don't think it's actually that much of a step down, if even that much of a step down at all. So, but also I'm not raving about it in the same way that I wasn't raving about the other two. So take that for what you will. So yes, and you're talking about the cover because obviously Melinda Clarke, although she's actually credited as Mindy Clarke in the movie, I guess I don't know if she changed her name or whatever, but the poster obviously is her with like these extra bits of metal and all these piercings. But it's not just piercings though. There's also just shards of glass sticking out of parts of her body. So if someone's looking at that and going, "Oh, sexy zombie lady," this is awakened something in me. I would suggest, liking a few piercings, yeah, sure, whatever, knock yourself out. But into shards of glass sticking out of a body's kind of it's a red flag. It's a wake up call. Go to therapy.
I mean, I don't think most people are taking it like literally, but I think that probably is something that people are looking at where it's like, a little bit of like, pain can be pleasure kind of thing. Like, not to the point where people want to stick broken glass into themselves, but I don't know, like people probably are like, oh yeah, that's reminding me of like, things like piercing flesh or something, which, some people are probably into.
Yeah, you could have just said S&M. There's a name for it.
Sure.
We said people looking for pain for pleasure. That's the whole. There's a whole genre out there, Tim, of sexual activity that falls into.
Okay, well, again, S&M. I'll have to look into this because that's not something I'm quite aware of.
Poppycock. You've heard of S&M. You know what bondage is and what all these other things are. Could think of a third example.
I've seen the Hellraiser franchise. I'm aware of
exactly
of that.
Yes, Cenobites. They're all based on kinky dominatrixy kind of things. We will devour your soul. You will show you new heights of pleasure. All that malarkey. Not that any of that's in this, other than just that they were really clearly going for a sexy zombie with like her like transformation into like what she eventually looks like. But we'll get to that later, of course, in spoilers when we actually sort of get to those bits of the movie. I think the main thing for me is that it maybe sags a little bit in the middle. I think there's kind of like a ramp up to when things really kick off, and then there's a little bit of a sagging until like everything kind of coalesces again. And because it's kind of like almost an on the run movie where like the dad who's part of the military, the main character, the man of the couple, his dad's like a general on the science like military experiment with the zombies and being used for combat and all that, and he's like looking for him once everything goes down. So there's kind of like a sort of manhunt kind of element to it. A low budget manhunt, don't get me wrong. You only ever see him in like a couple of dudes in white suits chasing after them, but that's the vibe they're going for at the very least. So no, it's very watchable. I mean, I agree with that. I think it's a decent enough watch. It's not, Brian Yuzna directed this, who obviously is a name that pops up quite a bit in the 80s and 90s in the horror and sci-fi world. we last talked about Brian Yuzna when we did Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 4, I believe.
That's right. Yes.
So he could go lower in terms of numbered sequels that he just kind of came in and did an entry of. Because this is definitely better than Silent Night, Deadly Night 4.
Yeah.
Don't make that noise. You know it is.
I mean, I guess similar to, this movie, there are things I appreciate with Silent Night, Deadly Night 4, like some of the outrageous, wacky stuff that it's going for. But yeah, neither what I would say is like an amazing film or anything.
Yes. Melinda Clarke is to this movie what Clint Howard is to that movie.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't actually know how much we could talk about without spoilers, really. I mean, we've kind of set up as much of the plot as we can. We talked a little bit about the effects and the zombie makeup. Performances, I guess. I mean...
I mean, they're decent enough, doing what they're doing.
They're definitely a low-budget horror movie, though, right? Like, there's not, like, any great performances either. They're not terrible, but they're not... like standing out as like, oh, someone's really, hitting a home run here with this.
There's one other person who I didn't really recognize them at first, but when I was looking at IMDb, I was like, oh, it's this person.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you picked that out, but do you know the like female military person that kind of takes over the dad's job or whatever? Do you know what else she was from?
Oh, the English lady. Not off the top of my head. Her voice did sound familiar, though.
She played Ursa in the Superman movies.
Even though you're saying that, I can't really picture it, but like the voice does sound like I can hear it.
Yeah. Like I mean, it's obviously like such like a different look, and I mean those movies are what, like, I don't know, like over 10 years apart, right?
Yeah, I mean, Superman 2 is 81, and then and then this is 93, so yeah, but 12 years.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, like she's obviously older and a much different look in this movie and stuff. But I just thought that was interesting because I was like, oh, like that's like a fairly big movie and stuff, and I would never would have guessed it was her unless I was looking at IMDb.
No, that's fair. That's fair. We also have a Colonel Peck in this movie. I just think that's a funny name.
Ooh.
That's all I've got to say about that. Yeah, honestly, like, I think these stuff with like the dad and the son and like, oh no, I'm being relocated after next week. We're leaving this town. You have to leave your punk girlfriend behind. And he's like, no, I can't. I'm in love with her dad. Like that stuff is just kind of like, yeah, whatever. Like, I guess that just ties more into the romance feeling a little bit undercooked and like this whole do or die, we'll go out guns blazing together kind of attitude they seem to have just isn't particularly earned, especially since like the opening chunk of the movie, which is like what they do before all the bad stuff happens, is kind of them being basically like, I'll be honest, it's actually tough to tell what age they're supposed to be because I would have assumed they were like maybe 20, 21, but then the way the dad's like, oh, we're moving and you have to come with me, kind of feels like, oh, are you meant to still be in high school? You might be.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, because, if they're really like that over their heads in love and stuff, then, you'd think even if the kid's dad moves, it's like, well, I'm just getting an apartment here. Like, I don't want to leave her or whatever. Or even if they're supposed to be like, seniors in high school or something, it's like, well, that's not a lot of time to wait, it's like, so I agree. I wasn't sure what their age is supposed to be at all. Yeah,
but the dad did get him a motorbike. They mentioned that, like the motorbike he has, his dad got him, and he can't be that young if his dad's buying him a motorbike.
Oh, that's a very good point.
Yeah. So yeah, a little bit unclear on that. But even at one point, Julie, Melinda Clarke's character, does say, oh, like my mum will probably not notice that I'm gone for a week. So again, she's talking about her parent as if she's still a teenager. So I don't know. I don't know exactly what age they're supposed to be, but I guess them being young obviously makes sense for their like weird attitude with their romance and how kind of like intense they seem to be about it.
Sure, yeah. Everything's heightened at, like, you know, the younger you are, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't have too much more to say spoiler-free wise. I wouldn't say music kind of sticks out. If anything, there's a couple of bits of music in this that feel like stock music that I hear in a lot of low-budget stuff in the 90s. Like, I feel like every made-for-TV movie has this kind of, like, synth, like, sting in it that this has. And I could be wrong, it may not be the exact same one, but it sounds so similar. It was definitely something that was very in vogue at the time for low-budget movies to use. I wouldn't say there's too much sticking out about the visuals either, other than one or two specific moments, because there's something unique on screen. Or with, like, how they make her look later on in the film, and she's sort of transforming a bit more. But I think we'll just say spoilers then, so we can get into it and we can talk about everything. So we'll get into Return of the Living Dead Part 3. You've been warned, spoilers from here on out. So, I mean, to be fair to this movie, I think one of the more interesting things it does is that it doesn't ignore what the previous movie set up. In fact, that it actually tries to expand upon it by saying, hey, the military are still doing experiments with this stuff. And like a big part of the plot here revolves around the fact that Kurt's dad, Kurt being the young, male lead, the dad is like part of this program who's trying to find a way to weaponize these zombies, and they're trying different things. Now he's got this idea to like inject them with this like freezing bullet that'll basically like shut them down and freeze them from the inside for an extended period of time. So the idea is they can drop them into like enemy territory, have them cause havoc, and then come in and just like zap them with their cold gun, and that's it. We can take them back to storage, and that's them until next time we need them. Whereas the English lady, who's kind of this like, and why there's an English lady high up in the American military in a top secret program, that's let's not question that too much, but it did cross my mind at one point. She instead wants to do exoskeletons that sort of they can use to control them, where they can kind of like stop them from moving if they want to. And that's something we see that a bit more in focus later in the film. But they've got these rival ideas. But they're going with the freezing thing to begin with. However, when they test it, the zombie just wakes up after like 30 seconds and like bites the lab guy that's in the room with them. And there's a bit of chaos ensuing. He gets his fingers bitten off, and you can see the bones sticking out and all that stuff, and everyone's like, oh! And this is actually why Kurt's dad is going to be transferred to a different base in Oklahoma, because his entire idea was shit, and it failed spectacularly and got at least 2 people killed. So, congratulations, Colonel. I said General earlier, it's a Colonel, according to the credits. So.
I mean, lucky he's just being transferred. Like, I feel like, that you just can your butt after that.
Ah, no, he's a white guy in the American military. They'll practically reward him for this.
That's very fair.
I'm surprised he's not getting a statue saying, "Oh, what a brave man! He's made so many sacrifices. Give him an arc." Anyway, yeah. So the other big part of the plot here, of course, is that Julie and Kurt sneak in using the key card that he stole from his dad, because they want to see what this test is at 6 p.m. So they actually are hiding up in the rafters watching all this and being like, oh, this is weird. And honestly, Kurt, like, I get that Julie's hot and all, but she's kind of been oddly turned on by the fact that there's a dead guy coming back to life and killing people. So maybe question your romantic prospects a little bit. Just a thought.
Yeah. Well, the heart wants what the heart wants,
I don't think it's the heart making the decisions, Tim, if I'm being honest.
I do appreciate your honesty.
Thank you. So they go back to his place and they have sex. And then when the dad comes home, he tells him, hey, we're moving. And he's like, no, Dad, I won't move. So the setup of the movie really is that he's going to run away with her. They get on his bike. They just drive off. And for some reason, Julie, being the daredevil that she is, being kind of frisky, starts like groping his crotch while they're driving the motorbike and making him kind of like drive dangerously. And he has to swerve at the last second when a truck's about to hit them. And she goes flying off the back of the motorbike and hits like a telephone pole or whatever it is and dies. So this is the real inciting incident, because he just saw a person come back to life with this like gas inside the military base.
Yeah, just in the biz, we call that getting hereditaried.
That's not the same as the hereditary thing. She still has her head, Tim.
It's close enough, though. Like, if you smack into a pole that fast, that's the term.
Okay, well, he looks down at the key card that's dropped out of his pocket, and he's like, "Oh, I can bring her back. She doesn't have to stay dead. I can bring her back." So he infiltrates the base, which, by the way, the security on this base, they have snuck in here twice now, and no one has like caught them. And he's able to get to like the room with all the zombie like barrels, and he unleashes the gas to wake her up.
To be fair, this is keeping in line with the other movies, which is just showing how inept the U.S. military is. Like,
of course,
they're just constantly dropping these barrels and just leaving them in places where kids can just like wander in and open them up.
That's
stuff.
right.
Like,
which actually reminds me, there's a big change in this movie to the zombie lore here. Is we noted quite significantly in the first movie that it seemed to be that the zombie bites did not create more zombies. It did not like spread like a virus. Only the gas itself turned dead people into zombies, or even living people for that matter if they breathed it in. And 2 seemed to stick to that. I don't remember 2 veering from that. The people that all become zombies, I think, were all people who, you know, the kid who turns into a zombie, he was there with the gas, all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
I'm not as confident on 2 because I wasn't looking for it, but I don't remember any big examples. This movie, though, in that first time where the zombie bites off the fingers, that guy who got his fingers bit off turns into a zombie within like a minute. So this movie is definitely applying if you get bit by the zombie, you're turning into one. And how long that takes seems to vary wildly, but it's a thing that's going to happen.
Yeah, no, honestly, that's a good point. I wasn't really clocking that, but yeah, now that you bring it up, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and it's not just that one, because it'd be one thing if it was just that one scene in the lab, but no, like it's a plot point later on that she bites someone that then slowly turns into a zombie, and then other people turn into zombies by the end of the movie. So it's a recurring thing in this movie. They've adopted that for whatever reason, I guess just because they wanted to. But whilst she wakes up and she's like cold and she's confused. Actually, first of all, the very first thing she says is like, "Whoa, that was fun, let's do that again." So she's turned on by the adrenaline, and then she's like, "Where am I? Why can't I feel my heart?" and starts to question things. And then one of the zombies from the canister shows up, and this one's like, it feels like a Brian Yuzna thing because like the face is all melted down into the chest. But it chases after them, and they go on the run to try to get away and all the rest of it. But at this point, though, like at some point they've checked the security cameras and went, "Oh shit, my son was here. We have to go find him. She's a zombie. She's eventually going to kill him." And it's like, yeah, but it'll take a while though because she's emotionally attached to him. Like, you know, she'll hold out for him longer than anyone else. It's like, well, that doesn't make me feel better. So
that's classic zombie lore that always happens.
Yeah. Well, that seems pretty unique to this franchise, actually, is the whole I mean, other movies have people slowly turn. I mean, Dawn of the Dead, the original, has someone, you know, get sick, but it's not really so much that they're like in Return of the Living Dead, they specifically are already dead, but they're still like fully comprehending things and they're still thinking, and that's what slowly decays until they turn into full-on zombie. Whereas in most zombie movies, you might get sick over time and get weaker, but it's not. But you actually die, and as soon as you die, that's you're in zombie mode.
Yeah.
Whereas this is like, no, you're already dead. You don't have a pulse. You don't have a heartbeat, but you're going to like slowly like lose all your brain functions by over the next several hours, and that's something that's been in all three movies. So they've been consistent with that at the very least.
No, that's true. So what I think is really interesting here, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but when they bring up the mechanic of the like, oh, pain can kind of make the like hunger or zombifying or whatever like subside a little bit. So she's like, oh, like and that's why she has all the glass and all this other stuff sticking out of her. Like that's actually like a really cool, interesting idea where it's like, oh, in order to stave off this thing, I have to constantly like be hurting myself. And again, based on like the cover for the movie and everything, you kind of think that's like gonna be the whole movie, and then it kind of ends up just being like this little chunk in the middle, like where that's happening. But I kind of wish that they maybe played with that a little bit more. Again, in my mind, I was like, oh no, that's like the whole movie, right? Like they're just constantly on the run, and she's having to like do more dangerous stuff or hurt herself more to kind of put that off. And it's really only like kind of one part of the movie.
Yeah, and I would even say middle. I'd say it's like near the end. Honestly, it's kind of end of Act 2, start of Act 3 kind of portion of the movie where she's doing that. But they go on the run, and they end up going to a store because she's hungry, and she doesn't realize yet that she wants brains. She just thinks she's really hungry. So they go in, and she's ransacking the shelves. This is where we introduce our gang characters, if you want to call them that, which is 3 guys and a girl, and they're playing an arcade machine, and the girl's like bored, but even like her boyfriend, who's the leader of the gang, who's, I think his name is Santos, he is like, but hey, if we left when you wanted to an hour ago, he wouldn't have got to level 7. And then he turns around, and they're all 3 of them are all super invested in this video game that he's playing, and she is just like bored. She wants to go. That is the introduction of these characters. What's so funny is I thought that, like they're going to get involved because like the main characters are going to bump into them, and they're going to like, and that does happen. But then it turns out that we're planning on robbing this store anyway, because one of the guys goes behind the counter when the shopkeeper comes up to like try and like diffuse the tension. And then the shopkeeper gets shot by one of these guys, and it just so happens though that when they're fleeing the scene, Julie grabs one of the guy's arms and bites him. So that's kind of why we get one of them slowly turn into a zombie. And they actually end up, once they realize he's sick and that he's something wrong with them, they don't know it's a zombie thing, obviously, but like, oh, it must have been her. She must have had rabies or something. She's made him sick. We better find him, and then I don't know if they want to kill them or just beat the shit out of them, but like they clearly want to find them, and they find them actually very easily once they start looking for them, to be honest. It doesn't take that long, but yeah, there's the whole section here is that they're meant to try to help the shopkeeper because they're not bad guys, obviously. But the police show up and just start firing shots at them, so they get into the shopkeeper's van and just like drive off. And the shopkeeper actually gets killed by the police because he opens the back door and tries to tell them, hey, it's okay, you don't have to shoot at us. I'm the victim in all this. And they just shoot him in the head immediately. So it's not just the military that's incompetent in these movies, Tim. It's also the police. Let's not forget that.
I mean, that's how you know it's fiction. I mean...
Yeah, and Julie then starts eating this shopkeeper's brains, and that very much upsets Kurt, who's like, what are you doing, Julie? What are you doing?
I would have never thought that this could happen after I exposed you to that zombie gas, which I watched and make another zombie earlier. Like, who could have thought?
It's a series of poor decisions, a comedy of errors, you might say.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe one of the reasons why, like, I kind of feel like the couple is a little bit of, like, I don't know, just kind of dull is, like, I feel like Julie is a bit more, like, wild and, you know, making jokes, and I don't know, like, I feel like a lot of the funnier bits are stuff that she does, but I don't know, Curry's just like a wet blanket. I mean,
he's definitely the weaker too. And honestly, maybe part of the problem is that she is the one who's more entertaining up front when she's normal, but then she's the one who has that taken away, and she's like confused and like turning into a zombie slowly and just acting in pain. So all of the character she had in that first like 15 minutes goes away because of the plot of the movie. It almost would have made more sense to have the dull one who has no personality be the one who has to act in pain and like need the brains and whatnot.
Yeah, and like I'm not trying to say this is like a super serious movie. Like it's like obviously there's a lot of like ridiculous stuff that happens in it, but you know, the first two are like, you know, pretty comedic. Like, you know, you could I guess you'd probably call them like horror comedies. And then not to say that this one necessarily isn't, but yeah, I feel like especially with the two main characters, they're playing it more straight than I want. Like I want them to be over the top and like ridiculous and cracking more jokes and stuff, but you know, there is like a lot of like, you know, oh, like what did we do? Like what am I becoming? Like how do I live with this? Like, oh, like, you know, like I think like the next scene where like, you know, she's on like the bridge and stuff, and it's like, you know, what do we do? And it's just like I don't know. I think I would have liked it more if it was just goofier and sillier.
I get what you're saying. I don't know if I mind necessarily if they're pivoting from that. And definitely some of the zombie stuff is definitely still kind of silly, intentionally so.
Yeah.
But they're doing kind of comical, like, you know, heads on spines dangling above the thing, and it's a really comical, pulpy effect. Right. I mean, I think I'm okay with what's going on as long as there's action. So when they're in the van and they're driving and she's eating the brains, like, I was okay with all this. I do want to point out, though, that when they do stop and the police get out their car to come and check on them, these two actors playing the police officers are two of the most unconvincing police officers I've ever seen in a movie. They just feel like a pair of nerds who are like pretending. Like, they've got like cheap police outfits on, and that's it. They just don't look like they've got the presence. It doesn't feel like they've got any kind of you know, just. Well, no, whatever, you know, authority. There's no authority to them. They just look like scared little boys, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But they do the whole thing where the dad shows up, military show up, and they're like, oh, we can't find them. And it feels like, it's not actually been 10 minutes in the movie. Like, I'm not saying it's in real time, but it feels like because we cut ahead to more people arriving, some time has passed, right? At least a few minutes, maybe 5-10 minutes have passed. And they do a thing to show that the main two characters have escaped into the sewer, where the dad, after this little time period has passed, says, God, where could they be? And the camera goes down, and it does the Ninja Turtles thing where you just see the manhole cover like slot into place. And I'm like, one, he's standing a foot away. He should have heard that or noticed it. And secondly, why are you just shutting the manhole now? It feels like you should have already been like halfway down the sewer system by now. It feels like a good 10 minutes have passed. So just there's lots of little weird details in this scene that were taking me out of things a little bit.
That's definitely one of those weird movie things where, yeah, you know, they don't want you to think about it because it's like, okay, yeah, this is just for the visual to show that they're down there. But yeah, when you try to think about it logically, it's like, okay, yeah, so what, did they like go down the sewer and then like just, like you said, wait there for like, you know, 10-15 minutes and then till their dad comes and goes like, now I'll close it. Like, yeah, what is going on there?
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, if you just put the camera, like, if you just had the camera tilt down and just look at the manhole cover being covered already, it would suggest the same thing. You don't have to see it slot into place to get, oh, it's telling us visually that they went to the sewer, that's how they got away. That would be fine. Alternatively, if they are like waiting under there, right, and they've not shut it completely yet, maybe give it a reason, like show that they're listening because they want to hear and to see what they say. Like maybe they're trying to figure out information, they're trying to find out what the dad's trying to do so they can get away from him or figure out a plan of attack or whatever it is. So, anyway, but like you say though, it's after this point where the movie kind of drags for about half an hour. Like the next half an hour, which is a lot of her being mopey, trying to jump off the bridge, then him looking for her, and then they meet a character who eventually gets the name of Riverman. That's what he says to call him. But he's basically just a homeless guy who lives in the sewer system next to this river. And he kind of like takes them in, especially since the gang show up wanting to get to them. He's like, oh, come on, I'll take you to my place. And they go into the sewer system. And there's a lot of conversations. He's like, oh, we're going to move to New Orleans or whatever, Seattle, and I'm going to like get in a band and you can just like party all night. You don't have to worry about anything. She's like, do you really think we're going to make it? It's like, of course I do. And I'm like, you're not going to make it. What are you talking about? So like this stretch of movie, which I just sort of summed up very quickly because there's nothing interesting to talk about in it, does take a good 20 to 30 minutes. So there's a nice long stretch of stuff in there going on until it eventually gets to the build up of like, I mean, to the point where her and him, I think after that heart to heart where he convinces her that everything's going to be okay, they have sex. Like, you know, it cuts away as they're kissing, and then next time we cut back to them, he's asleep, and then she starts putting stuff in her body, right? That's when she's really trying to fight the hunger. And I'm like, he just technically had sex with a dead person. That's kind of gross. Like, are you not feeling her be cold? Like, you know, she's not got a pulse, she's not got a heartbeat, blood's not flowing quite the same way. I don't know. It's just, that's kind of disgusting, actually, when you stop to think about it.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's a little strange. Yeah, and then I don't know. I would be, well, I mean, I'm not sure if he uses protection or not. I forget if that was brought up, but I mean, if, you know, you can become zombified through like, you know, bites and whatnot, like, you know, what does that mean for, you know, sexual intercourse?
I don't know if I'm right. I think you have to have. I think you have to get some of their samples into your blood. I don't know if that happens from sexual intercourse. Maybe you could argue it does. After all, STDs are a thing. Maybe it would also be transmitted that way. I don't know. I don't think
Tell us in the comments if what you think.
I don't think she can get pregnant though. So at least that's one worry away.
Yeah. Well,
what do you mean, well?
I mean, I'm thinking of some other zombie-ish movies we've seen where, you know, infected people have gotten pregnant. So maybe you never know.
Well, no, gotten pregnant or were already pregnant when they got infected. There's a difference.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil the movie I'm thinking of.
Sure, but like, I'm just saying. Yeah, so that was to say, the gang's looking through the sewer system trying to find them, and eventually they do come across them, and the Riverman's like waiting outside the door, but he's fallen asleep, and they start like torturing him to try and say, where are they? And then Kurt comes out, and they start beating him up. There's a bit of a fight scene, and then eventually we get the big entrance. Julie walks through the door with all of her bits of glass and piercings, and she looks kind of whatever. Her clothes are all ripped. She's practically like, I would never mentioned this earlier actually, but the zombie they're testing in that opening experiment is wearing effectively a mankini. It's just like a couple of straps and like a codpiece. And she kind of has done that to her outfit here, where she's kind of, and I don't think she's because there's so many piercings in her body. I'm sure this is just like a fake like cover, like a rubber cover that's got all the piercings in it. But she's basically like ripped her clothes to tatters and is coming out looking all kind of punk and goth and whatever. And what's so wild about this is that the leader of the gang, Santos, looks at her and says, you know, you may be my kind of bitch. I think I'm... and he basically takes her back in to Riverman's place as if I'm going to go have sex with her. You guys hang out here whilst I go do this. Which his girlfriend doesn't seem to have a problem with, which is weird. But I was like, wait a minute. Again, I go back to the whole, like, you bringing up people having a fetish for her on the front cover. And I'm like, she has shards of glass sticking out of her body. In what world do you want to get close to her right now? Even just pressing your body against hers will cut you deeply.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's, you know, it's certainly an aesthetic that I think some people think is cool and like. So I don't know. I guess it just worked for some people.
The way you keep saying some people implies you're really into this, Tim. That's what I'm getting from this.
Couldn't be further from the truth. I don't like the smallest bits of pain. I live my life in a way where I have to experience very little pain in my life.
Uh-huh. I'm not quite doing the Larry David look, but I'm thinking about it. I want you to know I'm thinking about it. So anyway, she basically, there's a scream and she comes back out dragging his body by the head, but she's pulled out his like spine, but not all the way. It's still kind of connected, but it's kind of dangling out of his neck, which this is actually a good setup for when this guy gets back up as a zombie, because he starts, like, they have kind of like a, you know, like a puppeted head like on the back of like whoever's like inside their prop body. So you get like a zombie where the head's dangling on the spinal cord. I don't know, it's a fun idea, you know, it's a cool visual, it's kind of silly, you know, it feels comical. It's probably the most comical thing in the whole movie, actually, now I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, no, it definitely sticks out. I like some of the like zombie stuff at the, you know, in the last act at the military base, but yeah, I don't know if that stuff I would say is playing for laughs as much as, yeah, like this is.
No, I would say that's taking itself a bit more seriously. But, you know, she comes out, she goes over, and the other guy, the one that's not turning into a zombie, because he's about to turn into a zombie, because the girlfriend's actually going to get away, and then the guy that was changing actually bites her. He's the one that gets her. But Julie goes over to the other guy and actually bites his lip and then rips off his entire, like, chin flesh, which I thought, okay, that's a fun kill kind of thing. And this is then where it turns into a bit more of a typical zombie horde thing, because now this entire group have turned into zombies. It is funny how some of them seem to turn into zombies within like a minute, whereas like, you know, others take hours to do it, but you know, whatever. And they start to bang on the door, they try and barricade themselves in, and they're just kind of hiding from the zombies as she's freaking out. Although she does end up eating the brain, she kills and eats the brains of Riverman, because she goes off with him ahead as Kurt stays back to try and like barricade the door or whatever. And then when he finds her eating this guy's brains, this nice man who's helped him, this is when he finally realizes, oh, I don't know if I can stay with you. You might be a dangerous zombie. Oh well. And then that leads to when the dad shows up and he says, get away from her, son. I'll blast her with my trank freeze gun. And he does. And that sets up her third act, which is all in the military base. Thoughts on all of this bit?
You know, I mean, it does make sense for him, to be like horrified and stuff, but also like, I don't know, it does feel like it sells out the character a little bit for me, because so much of everything leading up to this was like, our love is so strong, like we can never be apart, and you know, like I'll bring you back to the dead, even if it means making you a zombie, because I need you in my life or whatever. So I don't know, like I thought like, oh, like if your love is that strong, like I want to see you be like, you know, even if, you know, you're doing this, like I still can't let you like be hurt or whatever. So honestly, I felt it was kind of weird that he lets his dad take her. And then, I mean, obviously, you know, the whole next like bit of the movie is like, you know, him rescuing her. So yeah, obviously like he changes his mind or whatever. But I don't know. I thought that moment was a little weird.
Keep the next bit out of it, because that's like a separate thing, I think.
Sure.
I do think that this makes sense. I mean, not that I think the movie does a great job telling the story, but surely the whole point of this story should be him getting to a point where he realizes she's actually gone, and this has all been him pretending she's still okay, because it was never true, right? If you were trying to make a serious version of this that had some subtext, it would be about letting someone go, right? It'd be about actually moving on from someone's death. Now, I'm not saying the movie's actually doing that or even getting close to sniffing that, because it isn't. But this makes sense to me as a point. But this should be more like the end of the movie, honestly, where he finally lets her be put down, kind of thing. Instead, we go to the base where it feels like everything's over, but then when he goes snooping around as his dad's talking to the other military people, and he goes into the zombie lab where he sees her in a cage along with the others, and it's all the gang members that we just saw, and we see Riverman's been put inside the exoskeleton. So we get this insane visual of him with all these braces around him, including his head. It does this interesting thing where it basically tries to make you sympathize for the zombies, where like he's in great pain as they're drilling all this stuff into him, and he's like screaming, even though he's still a zombie, and it makes him feel bad. So then when Kurt turns around to the scientist who's standing there, he's like what, you know, what's happening next? And he's like, oh yeah, this is the future of warfare, son, and she's next. And he's like, what? Not Julie. He's like, yeah, it's going to happen to all of them. They're all going to go through this. And she's like muzzled at this point, and she's in a cage with her hands tied up, and it's all very sympathetic. Even though we've seen her eat brains of good people and like, you know, rip people's heads off. It's like we're and I was like, this is kind of interesting. Like I don't know if it works per se, but I do appreciate this idea of like, this is like, obviously he should accept that she can't be around anymore as she was. Like, she is a zombie, she is dead. But this idea of the zombies being kind of relatively innocent, and this exploitation of them being inhumane, regardless of the fact that they're zombies, is an interesting path to go down. And I do think some of the visuals of Riverman in this like exoskeleton, especially once the power goes out in a minute and there's like sort of just like one beam of light shining behind him, I thought it actually looked kind of cool in a couple of shots. It's some of the better visuals of the whole movie, honestly, was in this section.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's cool, and then I feel like since we actually got to know the character a bit before, you know, he became a zombie, like, we actually do feel more sympathetic towards him when they're doing all these experiments and stuff. And then also notably, you know, they take all like the, you know, glass and all the stuff out of Julie. So again, it's kind of weird like seeing her, because I just feel like, oh yeah, no, that like she has that iconic look of all this stuff sticking out of her. So then it's kind of funny that like, oh yeah, like at the end of the movie, that's like, that's all gone. You know, this is just what, you know, she looks like. I do think there is definitely some interesting stuff going on here in this final act, but it does feel like, I don't know, like it's kind of, it loses some steam for me, because I feel like it kind of gets repetitive after a point where it just feels like, yeah, we're like kind of like going back and forth, you know, between these like characters, and you know, like I feel like they'll be focusing on, you know, like, oh, we gotta shoot the, you know, Riverman zombie or something, and then like, you know, they'll go to like Julie and Kurt and stuff, and then after a while, like we'll go back, and then like, yeah, they're still trying to shoot the zombie or something, and I'm like, oh really, like we didn't like move on to this part. And then I don't know, like the base, I feel like it seems like kind of small to me, and I don't know if it's just like, I feel like the limitations of the set and stuff, but I don't know, like it never really felt like this big sprawling base or something. Like they're kind of just, I don't know, like moving through like the same like couple of rooms, and I don't know, it just kind of felt like kind of small and repetitive to me, instead of like, I don't know, just like really ramping everything up towards the end for like this big finale. But I don't know.
Yeah, it was the same for you always, I think is what you're trying to get at. I mean, I don't know if I necessarily get the repetitive thing with like going back to Riverman, because Riverman, I think everything in the room with him is the best stuff, and it's once they get out of that room and it's just kind of zombies running around the base and then like try to find an exit. I think that's when it gets really kind of generic, and that's when I find it repetitive. I do think the scientist trying to shoot Riverman and his exoskeleton and actually taking out an entire leg and an entire arm, but because the exoskeleton's still kind of holding him together, he can still move around. Yeah. Again, I thought the visuals of that were kind of neat, and it's probably some of the best stuff in the movie, honestly.
No, I think that's cool, but it makes me laugh because, like, again, it seems like they're very close to each other, and the fact that like that scientist just like can't seem to hit the zombie, I was like, or yeah, like if he does hit him, it'll be like in the hand or something, where it's like, no, like why are you not shooting him in the head or whatever? But that was making me laugh.
I mean, to be fair, Tim, shooting them in the head's never really been brought up in this franchise.
Sure.
Like, it's never been a thing in this franchise. Like, the shooting in the head kills them. In fact, one of my complaints in the first one is that they're unkillable. That was something the movies set up immediately.
Yeah, I mean, I still feel like that usually should be like a go-to move, though. When, like, again, like there's times when he's not even like hitting the thing. It's like, I don't know. I feel like you'd be more productive.
I get what you're saying, but I'm just saying that the head's not any special in this franchise. Like, it's shooting them in the head is just as useless as shooting them in the hand. So
Sure.
I guess I would say he's a scientist. He doesn't know how to use a gun. Like, that's the best explanation I've got for you. I don't really care though. I mean, it's not something I was really thinking about. For me, it's just more wants to get out of here, where they're just kind of running around, and then out of nowhere, one of the zombies just bites Kurt in the arm when he's like kind of shielding her, and it's like, oh, he's bitten now too. So there's a whole big dramatic goodbye where the dad's like, "Come with me, son," and he's like, "It's too late for me, Dad. I've been bit." So the end of the movie is him and Julie going to the furnace and basically saying, "Let's go out on our terms together." And it's just like, I mean, you don't see them do it, but it's like, yeah, they're just going to jump in the fire together and like end everything. Cut to credits.
Yeah.
There you go.
And then of course you don't want to skip over the emotional final goodbye between the father and son, where he's like, the dad's like, "Oh, like, come with me," like, she's a zombie, and he's just like so dramatic. He just holds up his arm that's all bloody and chewed up, and he's like, like, I'm a zombie too now, Dad. And oh man, if he didn't tear up a little bit during that scene, I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, you just made up all that dialogue. He doesn't say any of that, but yeah, very good. Because I actually noted that he doesn't really tell him. All he says is this very vague line. He says, "It's too late for me, Dad." That's all he says. He doesn't actually say, "Oh, I've been bit, so just get out of here. Go. I'm dying anyway. I'm going to be a zombie. So piss off." He didn't say that. So as what it is. Yeah, but there's some interesting bits in this final section. At least when they're in the room with Riverman, I think there's some interesting stuff there. I think Riverman with his exoskeleton is kind of an interesting look. Them trying to give you some sympathy for the zombies is an interesting pivot as well. And it kind of works a little bit better than this franchise, because this franchise has established, some sympathy for the ones that are turning into zombies, because they're kind of still aware of what's happening to them for some time. So that kind of works, and it feels like a sort of evolution of what this franchise has done. So it does feel like a real sequel, right? It doesn't feel like, as much as it's pretty different to the first two, it feels like a real sequel in the ways that a lot of, like, this wasn't direct-to-video per se, but like a lot of direct-to-video sequels just feel like something where they just slap the name on it that barely feels like it resembles or knows what the previous movies were. No, this feels like it is trying to take what was in the previous ones and do something different with those elements, knowing what those things were. How successful it is kind of, up to you. And, it's fine. It's okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've seen much worse sequels. I mean, probably the biggest complaint is where it drags a bit, in the middle. But I mean, other than that, like, it's a fairly watchable movie. Like, I don't hate it, but I was fairly positive on the first two, which I know we differed a little bit because you're a little bit less so, but I really like the first two. And then this one, it's not bad, but it's just not as good as the other ones, but it's still a fine movie to watch.
Yeah, I guess just the sentiment I don't share is I don't think the first two are that much better than this. Like, I think this is kind of on par, or close to on par. So for me, it's not that much of a step down. I think they're all kind of in that same range, Yeah,
I mean, that's what I was just saying, though, that I'm fairly more positive on the first two than you. But
yeah, that's fair. All right, Tim, what are you rating Return of the Living Dead Part 3?
Yeah, so again, I really like the first two. I think this one dips a little bit, and it has some interesting ideas, but just like the quality, like the look is cheaper. It has some good special effects and then some not so great. And then I didn't really care too much about the main characters, so I don't want to be like super negative. Like, it's a completely watchable movie. It's not horrible, but it's not like great by any means. It might sound a little harsh, but I think I'm gonna give it like a 5.5. Like it's fine. I don't mind it. It's just, yeah, it doesn't like, you know, really tickle my fancy too much, but you know, it's not the worst thing in the world.
It doesn't say harsh to me, because that's actually what I think I'm giving it. 5.5 is like, you know, it's just a little bit over that midline, because I think there's enough ideas and enough like fun zombie effects that I think I want to give it a little bit of a nudge beyond that middle point. But I don't want to go as far to say that it's into good, certainly, because it isn't. So 5.5, and you know, I gave the first. Well, I gave the second one a 6 for sure. The first one, I think I gave a 6 as well. So yeah, I went 6, 6, 5.5. So for me, it wasn't a big step down. Whereas you have went 8, 7, 5.5. So for you, there's been more of a line going down. But anyway, that'll do us. October Dawn's not done yet. There's still a couple of episodes to come. Next up should be our next entry in the Hammer Dracula franchise, which I think is Scars of Dracula, but we'll double check that before we go and watch a movie, because I can never remember what the titles are for all those bloody things. Also, another bonus episode should be out around here soonish. That'll be The Dentist, so look forward to that if you're a patron or YouTube member. But hopefully you've enjoyed everything. You want to support the show, you can do that with Patreon or YouTube memberships, patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. You get bonus episodes, you get even more stream segments, all that stuff, plus of course stuff for the other shows that me and David do and whatnot. But that is us. That has been the show. That's been Screams After Midnight. Thank you once again for joining us. We always appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies, and we will see you next time.